Do you want to introduce?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our Real Talk with Pastor Walter and Pastor Anna. It's great to be with you guys this afternoon on this Thursday. And we are working on some renovations to our studio, and so we're just checking some new things out. But it's great to be with you, Pastor Anna. Why don't you greet everybody?
It's good to be here with all of you.
Yeah, and today we have an important broadcast as we're going to talk about the whole concept of artificial intelligence and what's going on in the world of AI and how it's going to impact the future world that we're living in, and looking at some of the roots. I'm sure you have a lot of information to share. And so real quickly, a couple quick announcements to you. Coming up quickly is Phil Capuccio will be with us in a few weeks. If you know anything about Phil Capuccio, phenomenal pastor, phenomenal prophet and teacher, he'll be joining us on February 19th, both on at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you don't want to miss it. So I encourage you to come out. Also coming up, our prayer meeting is tonight, 7 o'clock, live from our sanctuary. So I want to encourage you to join us as we continue to knock on heaven, just coming out of the 21 days of fasting and prayer. And we had such a powerful time on Sunday evening at a revival rally in Vineland. And so we had some powerful, Pastor Marcia did a phenomenal job preaching the gospel, and powerful altar ministry, people getting baptized in the Holy Spirit, and just experiencing refreshing from the Lord. And so those who were there, that was great to unify with other churches. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Anna as we begin our broadcast, and really just looking to hone in on really this whole concept of AI. So.
All right. Well, I think I just want to start, there's just so many different topics to talk about. So I just want to throw this out at you guys. There is a conference. It's called SatanCon 2023. You heard correctly. It's April 28, 29, and 30 in Boston, Massachusetts. I would say we definitely have to be praying, be vigilant, realizing that the enemy is all around us, and there's actually a conference in his honor. Just to give you an idea of the type of topics that will be spoken about, one would be destructing your religious upbringing, reclaiming the trans body, atheistic strategies for self-determination and empowerment. Another one, sins of the flesh, Satanism and self-pleasure. That's actually a thing you can go to.
Wow.
And many, many more. This is not a joke. Definitely something to be praying about, and realizing that when big things like that happen in a specific type of region, that impacts that area.
So where's this going to be headed? Where?
In Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, so Salem, right? Is that the same area? That's where they have it.
It's in Salem's in Massachusetts, but in Boston. So we don't want that to be in any part of the country, because it will affect. And so we have to be vigilant. We have to be praying against, and God can do anything. He can disrupt it in some way, shape, or form. And at least protect the Christians in the area. So, but what we were going to talk about, and what we are going to talk about today, is artificial intelligence. It just seems like over the last couple weeks, everybody is talking about artificial intelligence. Obviously, at the World Economic Forum, that was like the hot topic that they were discussing. But it really is happening all over the place. And it's been, depending on what sources you listen to, it has been a topic that people have been discussing. So the first part of what I'm going to share with you comes from, it's called the SXSW 2022 Film and TV Festival. So it's nothing, it's not conservative. This is really just a liberal type of, platform. And Amy Webb is the one, she is presenting, it's called, she's presenting Emerging Tech Trends, and that's the report that she's presenting. I'm just going to share some of the things that she is presenting. I think she did a very good job of just showing, even from a liberal point of view, just the positives and negatives of these different things that will be coming. And basically, the idea is that she is presenting trends, but unless you do something with the trends, that you try to get ahead of it, what's the difference, whether you know it or not? So that's wisdom for us to take in. So number one, AI is permanently altering our perception of reality. And maybe we could talk, okay, artificial intelligence is like basically intelligence that is not human intelligence, but it's computer-based that is now, many believe it's going to be equal and greater than human intelligence. And researchers in AI have focused basically on intelligence, on these different aspects of intelligence, of learning, of reasoning, problem solving, perception, and using language. Wow. Okay, and they have made incredible strides in just getting better and better in this. So, just to give you an idea, in 2012, Google had an AI platform, I guess, that was able to identify, this AI, artificial intelligence, was able to identify a cat on its own with huge amounts of data for it. But at that time, like the cat that the AI identified was like kind of odd looking. It wasn't like what we would know as cat, okay? It was already huge progress for them. But to compare from 2012 to where we are now, I mean, right now, you would not be able to tell the difference between what the artificial intelligence, it's not just like a picture that they come up with. They literally come up with a cat. You know what I mean? And it looks just like, and you would never know whether it's just a picture of a real cat or something that AI has created. Okay? So that's number one. The argument is that they're getting very close to the point of the day when AI systems can make their own decisions. Not everybody agrees with that, but that is already definitely on the table, and that basically humans won't have to be looking over their shoulder because they think that AI will be able to do it all on its own. So now it's also AI is changing the way that we communicate. Okay, AI can determine what we mean, not only what we say.
Right. So trying to get into motives.
So, and we're going to get into this part definitely, but the aspect of data, okay, all of this has taken huge amounts of data for them to be able to figure out what we mean. All right. Kind of like trial and error, just by seeing data over and over and over again. Helps them.
The algorithms, so to speak, right? Like what they do on Facebook or social media, they'll track what you're searching, so they'll begin to try to formulate a formula of what you like, what you dislike.
Exactly. So when I just hope we understand the revolutionary type of concept of all of it, because as people, mostly everybody, I know there's some people that are not quick adapters and have been very resistant to technology, but for the most part, people have just embraced all of it with two arms and are not really realizing how it's going to affect them in the long run. And it's like people willingly giving over their data to be able to, for all of this to happen. So again, what they're saying is that in the future, the AI is going to be so advanced that we're not even going to be able to distinguish it from actual intelligence. The more and more and more and more data that they have about us, it's like it's called data mining right now, that they are able to create this artificial intelligence that soon we're not even going to be able to tell the difference. So, there is, you can Google it. It's called GPT-3. Okay, it's an AI word processing. I don't know, whatever. That basically you can tell it a prompt. You can give it a prompt, and it will spew out an article. It will spew out an essay. Like kids are now using it, and they can actually, like whatever essay they have for school. Well, guess what? They don't have to write it anymore, and that's a whole topic to talk about. Truly,
is that a website?
Yeah. Well, it's an actual AI. Okay. So like just before we got on here, I typed in the prompt, write a 500-word essay about God and humans. Okay. So this is what it spit out. It said God and humans. Okay, so that's the prompt. Humans have long been fascinated by the concept of God. From the earliest days of civilization, humans have sought to understand the divine, often attributing a higher power with supernatural abilities and characteristics. Throughout history, different cultures have developed their own conceptions of God, from polytheistic pantheons to monotheistic deities. At its core, the relationship between God and humans is one of mutual dependence. Which, so one, you have to realize this is programmed, right? But no one necessarily programmed, okay, write a 500-word essay on humans and God. on the relationship between humans and God, right? So, but this AI thing took all the information that it had, but somebody programmed it, right? Which also leads to the question, one, when we're not going to be able to tell the difference between AI versus a person, we also have to realize that it was somebody who has programmed this AI, a group of people who have programmed this AI, and based on what they feel or think.
It's kind of the next step from the relativity that we've been dealing with, right? If you look at trace the steps going from, the battle for truth, absolutism, and now it's relativity, so it's everybody's truth, whatever it is, to leading now, it's the goal is to have a redefined way of communicating truth, because now what we're saying is AI is going to be a form of truth.
Well, and that's the issue.
Yeah.
We already, and I'll get into it, we already look at AI with or without really understanding what we're doing, that it's a form of truth, but we haven't seen anything yet.
Correct. I would agree.
And so even this, like relationship between God and humans is one of mutual dependence. The last I saw, and as I read in the Bible, I don't see how God is dependent on us.
Correct.
But obviously AI thinks
and again,
God is.
I think folks, because you kind of just interject here, because I think what you're talking about here is in the application for us maybe who are older, a little bit older, who know the Bible, who know what truth is, we can see it for what it is and we recognize some of the dangers. But what they're trying to do, and this has been happening, is to reform the younger generation. It's the kids. That's why they're going after the kids, right? So because they're in this generation, this is their generation. It's their social media generation.
Absolutely.
So what it is that it's just what is we have to adjust to the technology. This is what they've lived and grown up in. This is part of their world. And so they're going to get used to just typing in stuff and, well, they said it must be true. I believe it. And therefore their illusion of reality will be defined by all these things. And that's kind of what you're getting at. But that's kind of the intended goal here, is to raise a generation that's dependent not on textbooks of history, but on a machine of data.
And not even on themselves, and definitely not on God.
Right.
So, yeah, it's very bad. So the GPT-3, it's an enormous AI that used human-like verbiage, okay? So it's very strong on the verbiage part, on the words. There's one that's DAL-E, D-A-L-E. It understands what you want and produces visual examples of what you want. So you can say, okay, I want a picture of this, and this, and it just comes up, and whatever it is you had in your mind, just by saying it, it will just produce it, or type it. It will be produced on the screen, right? So like that's a whole different thing. Now, the question was asked, how do these systems know how to generate these things, right? And it's what we talked about. It takes a lot of data and a lot of practice. So we talked about the cat videos. So to get to the 2012 point of where they were, they had huge amounts of data and practice, the machine being able to do it over and over again. From 2012 to 2022, extreme amount more of data and the ability to practice. Now, this is from this woman's mouth, liberal, right? Has nothing to do with conservatives. This is her statement. You are the cat videos now. Okay? That should like have the hair on our head stand, okay? Because we are allowing ourselves to create the AI that is wanting to separate us from God.
And so how are they doing that? Is it through just us
giving data away?
Giving that, like our phones and stuff, right?
Oh, but it's everything. You figure it's our phones, it's Facebook, it's Google Maps, it's Google when we type in things, it's our Apple Watches, it's Fitbit, right? I mean, anything and everything.
It's all in the name
we're all
of
giving
we're
data
there to help
away.
you in case there's a problem. That's like analytics and give us as a problem, but ultimately their goal is to take it to create.
Well, their goal, it's this data is worth billions of dollars and we are giving it away free. And we're just excited. Oh, look, this is showing me my heartbeat. Oh, look, this is helping me, like you know how there's that frog in the water and the water keeps getting hotter and hotter until that frog is boiled? That's exactly what is happening with all the technology that we're using, and we do not even realize it. Mm-hmm. So this is her saying this. That's how the systems are learning, okay? We are generating unthinkable amounts of data which are being mined and refined to learn about us. We are giving them the data. They are learning about us. Have you ever thought, if you have an Apple Watch, where does that data go? Because it doesn't just stay with you. It goes one place, it goes to a third party. How about the Fitbit? Where does that go? Where does all the information that you're searching online, where does that go? How about on your phone? How about, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, on top of the data, then you get the whole thing of surveillance too. There's just multiple layers.
Well, but the surveillance, we're helping them surveil us.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
it's a trade-off. See, in their mind, it's a trade-off. You're getting convenience and you're getting able to get access to things.
We're getting the raw end of the deal, but we think we're not.
Right.
So let me let you guys know. In April 2018, in technologyreview.com, it says, with brain scanning hats, China signals it has no interest in workers' privacy, okay? This is news coming from the South China Morning Post. Again, it's like almost 5 years ago. It reports that Chinese employees working in factories, in the military, and on trains are being given hats and helmets equipped to monitor their brainwaves for sudden changes in their emotional state. The Post says that the government-sponsored project scans data from the caps for signs of depression, anxiety, or rage using AI, and the businesses adjust work accordingly, okay? So in 2018, when they gave them those hats, were they really able to, at that point, know everything that's going on in the people's brains? No. If you compare today to 5 years ago, the data that they received during those 5 years as the people had that cap on their head, there's no price to be paid for that data. Because now they're so much more aware of the brain functioning that's happening so that they can know what people are thinking. I mean, this is scary stuff, guys.
Right.
Because they're collecting so much data and information. I hope that makes sense. If you have a question, just type it in, because this is like some serious.
Well, we see some of your comments.
Things.
Some of you guys are writing about some of the things you've been experiencing. One is basically saying there's son is an engineer in Apple and shared about a new program for that very thing. They create things that most people cannot. Travels all over the states to teach it, and so then the other is again. I think there's medical issues too with the cell phone. I mean, and all that, like that technology being close to you. I know you read some data to us about physically in your brain and your cells that affect, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we could go in so many different directions. I'm kind of like wanting to focus on one just because there's so much, even just on the one, So like even right now, there's an app that literally you can, it's already working, that you could have AI be your counselor, okay? It's already programmed to work in such a way that, people call in or, use the app, and they're programmed to give specific answers based on,
Right.
and they're able to sense the emotions of the person and different things like that. So we have given them, how would they be able to do that? It's because we've already given them the data to be able to function in that way. And guess what? The more people that use that app, they're going to get better and better at it.
Right.
It's like this cycle that just, it's not going to end unless there would be something drastic that would happen. Okay. So you know how a lot of us are like, okay, I'm really concerned about facial recognition if the government uses facial recognition, because, I mean, I want my privacy. I don't want facial recognition to be used against me. Guess what? There's two other ways that they can already recognize you, you individually, you personally, without ever even using your face recognition. And it's not even your DNA, which is another issue, another topic. It can recognize, AI can recognize you by your heart print. Okay, you can be recognized who you are by pointing a laser at your heart. And the U.S. military is already working on this. It's called a laser vibrometry. And that it doesn't look at your heartbeat, but what it does, it looks at the micro movements on your skin that are generated by your unique heartbeat. So the laser works from 200 yards away. Think how far that is.
Wow.
That's not even close, right? They don't have to be next to you.
It's 2 football fields.
Wow, that's far. 200 yards away, and they can see through clothing. That's not an issue. And they can match your micro movements to a database full of cardiac signatures.
Wow.
So I would say, one, how cool is God that everybody has their own, right? We're so individual. And yet, because we are giving away our information, we are giving away our data, okay? Fitbit, doesn't that track your heartbeat?
Yeah.
Think about what other things track your heartbeat. And we are giving...
the Apple Watch does too. Do you have an app on there? So, yeah.
Okay, we are just giving away our information. Okay, another way AI can recognize you is by your unique breathing patterns. Okay, whether you're in person in a room or you're talking on the phone with someone. Again, micro movements that aren't really perceptible to people, but they are very visible to machines. And so they can identify by your breathing pattern. You know, we're such complex creatures, but if we're just willing to give things away, I guess they're able to learn. The challenge is you can't stop breathing and you can't stop your heartbeat unless you want to die, right? So that's a real challenge moving forward, because, you know. But so another thing AI can do is they can detect and replicate emotion in real time, okay? So now, and these are concepts, I mean, I had to listen to this twice. It's just amazing ideas. So there could be a prompt, okay, that you could generate in one of these AI machines. And it says, generate me a person who is trustworthy and warm, like friendly, right? And a picture will come up on the screen of a person, whether it's a real person or not, but one that the AI generated that is warm and trustworthy, okay? Just take that in, okay? It doesn't have to be a picture of a real person. It's just generated. It's now a picture. You see someone, not necessarily a real person, but AI has determined that this is someone that is trustworthy and warm. You know, so the machines are being taught not just to recognize who you are, but what you are, what you're feeling at any given moment. So these AI synthesized faces are like, you really can't identify if they're true people or not. They're that good at this point.
Wow.
And you have to wonder also who gets to decide like who's trustworthy, right? It's like they are being programmed in a certain way. So a small group of people are able to decide who's trustworthy, who's not, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, I know these thoughts are crazy. If this is the first time you're hearing about AI, these are some, like maybe some crazy ideas, and it's hard to just comprehend, but see what you could do. And again, if you have questions, just ask. But this is already an AI video. There is an AI video generator, okay, that you can pick a synth, like a video, a voice and a person to read whatever it is that you have that you want to be read, okay? And you can have this person be a certain gender, a certain hair color. You can have it look the way you want it, right? and they can read what you want them to read. Now, what if in the future you can pick a synth, just a voice that's attached to a face, and and you pick all that you want, the way that it looks. But what if you can also add a very high index of trust and honesty and empathy, and then you had a certain message that you wanted that synth to portray. And if it's already recognized that, oh, AI determined this one is very trustworthy, and like, think about the people that are receiving whatever message it is that you are sending. They're getting these warm and fuzzy feelings, right? Now, we know it wouldn't be Charles Schwab on the one that would be reading it, because most people are like, oh my goodness, this is a villain. Right. But you would be like, oh, wow, oh, that sounds good, because you're receiving it in a certain way. I hope that makes sense to people.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, we're seeing the early forms of it through social media in its very minute form, with the liking and the various features you can describe a post from somebody, right? There is that social connection, but you're still disconnected. This is like amping it up to the extent of saying,
in a huge way,
like, oh, okay, I'm getting the warm and fuzzies from something of a machine, and it's still tickling my emotions, right? It's still, so what I'm saying, it's the whole social media concept started it, and we see how so many people get like upset about posts and about people's reactions, and we don't even know people, but because we see it. Yeah. Now we're talking about a physical machine either having a voice indicator or telling you something, and think about what it does to the psyche, that we're so affected by something that's not even real, it's virtual.
Yeah. Well, and the challenge is that we're not even going to know that it's AI. We're going to be thinking that it's a real person, and yet it's not. Okay, so how is this going to also change the information or search for information? So algorithms determine what you're being shown and when, right? Like, we know that search is predicted, like you kind of have to know what you're looking for to really be able to find what you're looking for, or you just kind of go along with the algorithms based on what's popping up. But what if all of this could be more intuitive, is what they're saying. So people could describe what they want, what they don't want, reducing the choice, kind of like what they don't want. And then perception would involve asking a lot more questions. So one of the questions that this woman was asking, should it be mandatory to indicate that something has been AI generated? Right now, there is no policing, in a sense, to let us know if something is AI generated. Her question, if we don't need faces to recognize people, does that mean that we already are under constant surveillance? Very good question,
it's a very
right?
Good question.
So this is her posing two possible futures, and she is in the business of looking at trends, and based on the trends, kind of knowing what's ahead of us. Okay, so this is someone that is not just like Joe Schmo from the street, but so she's looking at 2027. She's looking at an optimistic scenario. She's saying, okay, optimistically, AI content is identified in some ways. Okay, the teams that created the AI, the models are identified. Total transparency is there. There's guardrails for use, and certain types of invisible, invasive biometrics are banned from public square. Okay, that's like awesome. Which means, heartbeat is not an issue. The fact that we keep breathing is not an issue. Our searching is much better, more intuitive. You can search visually, all these different things. And there's AI coaches that are helping us how to write better, okay? She's saying that's 20%. If probability, okay, which one is, she's saying that one is 20%. Very liberal site. Now, this is her catastrophic scenario. She's saying that problems that we had in 2022 are only exacerbated. Okay, misinformation is everywhere. Now in the forms of images and videos that were specifically designed by AI systems, but we don't know about it. We don't know where it's coming from. We don't know who was the one that created these models. and no one can tell the difference. Worse, they're designed to elicit our trust, okay? That's what they want, to get us to believe and eventually to get us really angry. There are unconscionable amounts of data being collected about us with zero transparency. I would say it's already happening. Your data are being held by third parties, which can resell it, and it's impossible to remain anonymous, okay? And she goes on, she's kind of laughing about it. That's why we have over our heart. That's why we have these plastic squares to kind of, not allow our heartbeat to be shown, and maybe a little face makeup so that, to confuse AI from recognizing us, a specific type that would be
Wow.
prepared. So again, this is a very liberal site, and this is all about technology and all about trends and kind of learning trends and seeing where it's taking us. Now, I just want to switch gears a little bit and go to, this is a name that I think everybody should be really familiar with. The name is Yuval Noah Harari. Okay, he's an Israeli national lead advisor and spokesperson for the World Economic Forum, Charles Schwab.
He's kind of the prophet of the World Economic Forum. So like he's the prophet to Klaus Schwab, who's the CEO, chairman of the World Economic Forum. And he's the one who comes with these brilliant exoteric ideas of what the world is going to become. And he integrates spiritual and technological information. So it's not just vain at financial data. It's like he's talking about like how the globalist movement is going to affect everybody, including the spiritual world and stuff. So
he's a gay man who is basically telling us that human free will is over as we know it. Okay, and that humans are acquiring more and more power, and basically that we are going to be gods because now technology is going to allow us to be gods. And he believes that he has lowered the humanity to this very low state, basically saying that all organisms are algorithms, okay? Whether you're a banana or human, it doesn't matter. It's all algorithms, just biochemical algorithms. And his whole thing is that humans are now hackable, okay? So what does this mean, and how is it going to look? So,
and just real quick for those who, because some people are asking, who's this guy? Like, what did he say about Jesus? Remember he made that quote, we quoted it like a year ago or something. He quoted something about that. Something about Christians.
So I'm not sure specifically which quote, but he will say he believes in God, but you would have to ask him, what does that mean? So to him, there's two types of gods. One is a mysterious God, and this God, you cannot know him. He is totally separate from us, and you cannot know him. He's very happy with that God. The God that we can know, the God of the Bible, no. He has way too many laws, and we know his words. With this God, we know how he would want our sexuality to be. We would know how to vote. We would know how to,
too many rules.
Too many rules. Okay, so he does not believe in that God, and he believes that Christians really are at fault because, for him, the reason for existence is to know truth and to know reality. Well, he just said we cannot know truth based on the word of God. He just said the God of creation is a falsity. Okay, it's not true. My question would be, so who gets to decide what truth is, right? We're back to that cycle. Of course, he would say him.
Yeah.
But so he definitely does not believe in the God of the Bible. Okay, so he says, in order for humans to be hackable, these things have to happen. You have to have a good understanding of biology and the brain, and you have to have a lot of computing power, okay? And now, whereas before, it was impossible. Now they're able to have both. Whereas before, secret police, they could follow you, but they didn't know what you were thinking, right? They couldn't go that far. Now, authority, he is saying, authority will soon shift from humans to algorithms. even in democratic societies. And why? Because people don't mind giving away that authority.
Well, it's interesting because this whole concept, just to kind of throw in an illustration here, because as you're talking, it's reminding me, like, even in the world of sports, like, so I like sports and you follow it, even as they're assessing ball players, like, for example, in baseball, they're going to assess and predict by trends, right, by algorithms, by data about their performance, whether this individual is worthy of a certain contract, worthy to play for our team, what they're going to predict, what's going to happen in their career, what their batting average is, all these, that whole scientific.
So they already know before it even happens.
Right. So scientifically, and so they've done more and more of that in terms of their management of the teams to draft players and stuff by looking at the data. So this concept is already in a lot of ways. Now we're getting into the inside where we're trying to now dictate. I think the emotion part is the whole new concept of getting into people's emotions and looking at why they're doing certain things rather than just
brains.
Right. And then just as simply the output. I get the output. Or the output you can see. Now you're getting into, like, you're trying to get into people's minds.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and so he's saying that people are willingly entrusting authority to algorithms, okay? And so he's saying they trust Facebook to tell us what is new, Google search to tell us what is true, Google Maps to tell us where to go, Netflix to tell us what to watch, Amazon to tell us what to buy. Okay? It's all algorithms.
Yeah.
And yet somehow we're all trusting it. How do we know that whoever programmed it is telling us the truth, right? How many times have you put something into GPS and you ended up somewhere totally different? Okay, what he's saying, eventually in 10 to 30 years, algorithms will tell you what to study in college, who to marry, whom to vote for, where to work, all the big decisions of life. It's all going to be handed over to algorithms. Think about that. So this is Harari, okay? This is him saying this. If the advice we get from Amazon, Google, or Facebook is better than the advice we get from our feelings, we're going to trust the algorithms of these companies more than our feelings, okay? We know we shouldn't even be trusting our feelings,
right,
except we should go to a different source. We should go to the Bible. We should go to God versus
right,
Facebook and all of these different things. So this is in one of his interviews, this is what he said about a scenario like that, about somebody trying to decide if they should marry a person. And it says, imagine that your partner asks you to get married, and instead of trusting you, you go and ask Google. Google, what should I do? My partner has asked me to get married. Should I get married or not? And Google will say, I know you. I've been reading your emails. I've been listening to all your phone conversations. I've been watching you when you read books. Because think about it. You read books on your tablet, right? When you watch movies, I track your biometric data. And based on all this data, and because I know your partner as well as I know you, and I have statistics of millions of successful and failed relationships, I advise you to marry your partner. Algorithms. It seems like a dystopian example, but it's only a matter of time before algorithms know us better than we know ourselves because we've lost the connection with our inner selves. Algorithms store all our likes and dislikes, right? So the more that we are just in tune with what the machines do for us, what the algorithms do for us, instead of taking the time to spend introspective. Okay, Lord, you know me. You have formed me. You have shaped me. And commune with God in that way, right? To get back a sense of, no, I need to know myself instead of putting all of this reliance on, machines. I think we have to ask ourselves a lot of some very heavy questions. All right, I'm gonna keep going. I have a couple more examples, but Harari again, he's saying, imagine in a few years, algorithms can tell a teenager exactly where they are on the gay straight spectrum. Right. And they can, just by collecting and analyzing data about you, okay? He's saying one way to do it is computer, because he said he didn't know he was gay until he was 21. He's like, how could I have not known before then, when I was 16, when I was 17? Okay, he's like, one way to do it, computer tracks your eye movements when you surf the internet, okay? So maybe we should put some tape on that camera. Can't hide from Amazon or Coca-Cola. This is his example. So he says, as you surf the web or YouTube or walk down the street, okay, because there's cameras in all sorts of places, algorithms will be discreetly monitoring and hacking you. Makes you feel safe. Maybe you don't know you're gay, but Coca-Cola does. How, you would say? Well, because they saw that when there was a couple walking by, if you're a man and you looked at the man instead of the woman, they're tracking that. So he says, so next day they show you a version of their Coca-Cola ad, and this version shows a shirtless guy instead of a woman in a bikini. Mm-hmm. Okay? His example, so you go to the store and you buy Coca-Cola, not Pepsi.
Right.
You don't realize why you did it, but they do. You don't know that you're gay, but they do. And they're saying such information is worth billions and billions of dollars. He's saying, okay, not everybody is gay, but everybody has a secret. They're watching for all sorts of things. That should be scary. That should make us aware and alert and maybe make some decisions in our life. It says, as algorithms get better, they can not only guide and control humans, they can replace humans in more and more jobs. That's coming regardless.
Right.
That's like 2025, they're saying is going to be a huge shift in those things. But, you always think of okay, the lowest type of jobs, but no, white collar jobs are going to be big ones that are going to be changed, specifically like doctors and lawyers. They're talking about as ones that can be interchanged, changed. Harari is saying, especially jobs that demand a good understanding of human feelings. Right. That's where
psychologists and psychiatrists and
everything,
counselors,
everything. They're saying self-driving cars, they need to understand pedestrians. Okay, if someone is 80 years old versus 5 years old, how they're going to act, right? Depending on that. So, it's very interesting. The human doctors, they not only have to diagnose the disease, but they also have to know if you're coming in angry or depressed or fearful. We are, and he is saying likely computers will be able to do this better than humans shortly. And I think the point is that he is clearly saying that he believes that humans are now like God.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think humans are like God. Humans are engineered to be programmed or to extract data so that they could be programmed by an outside algorithm source. So, a couple things, I don't know, are we done? Because I just want to kind of share a little bit.
Yeah, let's just share.
Share a little bit about so what do we do with all this? Because obviously some of this stuff is really extreme. It's extreme in a sense of, I can't believe we're here, and yet this is upon us, right? Obviously, it's been a slow cooking, like you're talking about the frog in the kettle with the social media, with the iPhone. Again, they need to continue to generate and progress in terms of intelligence to get, that's just the whole research and development. How do we take the iPhone from what it was 10, 15 years ago to what it is today? And so that's just driving everything. But I think the question is, from the biblical standpoint, is, number one, these are the things that an algorithm or a machine can't do. The first thing is we're just eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is what this is. Man is just infatuated with knowledge because knowledge to them exudes power. Mm-hmm. Power exudes deity, that now I'm my own God. I can control humans. I can control behavior. I can control how I think. And then we begin to believe in that. And that in itself is a lie, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're dismissing, unfortunately, then this whole spiritual dynamic and factor between good and evil, between a God and the devil. What about in some of these scenarios, right? The enemy's working. There's another force out there influencing someone's thinking and mind to do something. And this machine is going to pick it up and say, well, no, there's an X factor to this. There's a spiritual realm. Once you remove the spiritual realm, everything becomes systematically programmed, engineered, and we're not meant to be robots. We're human beings made in the image of God.
And of course, the spirit factor, right? We have a spirit. Obviously, the AI does not have a spirit, and there never will be a spirit. Right. But most people don't even realize that we are helping create this monster. Mm-hmm. And actually, on the flip side, are just excited to get these new toys. Right? But, it's like you think of the Tower of Babel, mm-hmm. and how, everybody was working together to create this tower to be like God, to be God. And you got to wonder, it's like, okay, at what point is it enough? At what point is God it's enough? Because the same people that are interested in all of the AI are also the ones interested in synthetic biology, mm-hmm. to extend life and to, that's a different topic, but I'm just saying, like, on so many levels, they want to play God on so many levels.
Well,
they think they're God.
The global agenda, it obviously starts economically because that drives everything. But the World Economic Forum is they're not there just for economic reasons. They're there to progress, to create this utopian feel that we can sustain this earth, and we
Our
can
way.
Yeah. And so this is the drive. And so all these things are pushing at that, how do we manufacture so that humans could be controlled, humans could be sustained, there could be a way of the Green Deal, the planet can be maintained, all these things that was never in their purview. According to how we view the Bible, God created the earth, God created the heavens and the earth, and he gave the children of men the responsibility to steward the earth, not to create it and just to manage what God created. Mm-hmm. Once you remove God out of it, now what are they trying to do? They're trying to sustain something that only God can sustain.
Yeah, and I think it definitely raises up the issue of the value of life. Right? Because he's basically saying, oh, humans just like algorithms. Like, it could be a plant, it could be a fruit, it could be anything. Right. It's all equal, which talks about just devaluing life. And obviously we see abortion is at an all-time high, but I think that's just where it starts.
Right.
Like, we know in California already there's a law that's passed that even 28 days after birth, mm-hmm. it's still okay to kill a child, right? That's just the beginning. You think about the food crisis that's coming, that they're actually causing, right. And all these different things. Like, it just shows that the value of life is non-existent, and everybody's just dispensable, Well,
because they're viewing this ideal vision to make the planet so much better, and even if it's at the expense of millions of people to get there, their ideal goal is going to be better for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be people who are going to die and suffer because of it. Yeah. And so I think all these things are in play into factor. Coming back to the ancient paths, as Jeremiah would say, coming back to the simple ways of life, is really looking to conserve what God has created, whether it's plant food, because God created us to be able to eat from the ground. Like, these are simple things, this idea of artificial food. Who knows what they're going to come up with in terms of the dietary stuff.
They have
I'm sure
a
they
lot.
Have their ideas, right?
Yeah.
So a lot to be said here. And
I think it's something to be prayerful about. Like, don't fear. Fear is just control over you. Mm-hmm. Don't fear, but ask the Lord, how would he want you to proceed? What kind of, we even talk about, even like what you're talking about, the whole farming, it's just a simple way of life. Like, what can you do to guard yourself from these various things, even the AI of what we're talking about? Now, will it change because so much data has already been taken and people will continue to give it. Will it change what's coming? I think it's a little late at this point. But how dependent do you want to be on all of these things?
Right. And then again, I think the Reformation part for us as citizens of this America, the great country of America, is to continue to push back against these agendas, like slow it down. It's happening, okay? The ball's already won. It doesn't help when we want to comply with it so easily and so egregiously.
Readily just hand it over.
I think we have the opportunity to slow it down and allow, I think education and information and biblical understanding, especially to the younger generation, that they understand where this is all coming from. There's an agenda. This is the point. It appears to be so much easier to live life like this. And yet statistically, we're seeing the level of suicide, the level of depression, the level of antidepressants on medicine, all this stuff from transhumanism. All this is a direct result that, okay, I'm in social media. Okay, I can connect with people, but there's still a vacuum in people's souls that's not being met. And so that's why they're entertaining these other things.
And I would teach your children, I would teach your grandchildren that the social media and just your phone, whether Google or whatever, it doesn't, AI in general, it doesn't mean it's right. Because imagine like a teenager gets told, because there's going to be an app in the future that can just tell you right there in front, oh, you're on this spectrum, you're on that spectrum. What if the AI tells them that they are on a certain spectrum and it's totally not true? Are they going to believe it? Have they already been prepared that, you know what, you have to be a critical thinker. You have to know and be under the truth of God versus what AI, versus what the phone tells you, versus what you know what I mean? They're going to be battling all sorts of things.
And the effect, the exception to this, the X factor is the divine. Natural disasters, hurricanes, pestilence, plagues, famines, all these things are God generated, or things that happen that AI can't explain that. Why is there earthquakes? You know, I'm sure they're going to try to explain it. Why are there hurricanes? Why is there things?
Well, they can create famines.
You know, well that we know, but you know, we also know that there are certain natural disasters that happen. Like, for example, what happened with the football player we talked about 2 weeks ago, right? That was an illustration of how God allowed that situation to happen. And everybody quickly recognized, oh, there's only one, there's a God. There's got to be somebody divine. So with that said, folks, we thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. There's a lot of information today. I encourage you to share the broadcast. Share with those who may have an interest in understanding where we're going from a technological, from an artificial intelligence standpoint. Thank you, Pastor Anna. You did a lot of research.
I would just say, and pray, because this is really a fight. I mean, if we cannot see that this is a fight between good and evil, between God and Satan, I mean, our heads are in the sand, you know? So literally pray, because prayer changes things.
All right. Well, listen, we'll see you guys next week. 4 o'clock again, Real Talk. If not, we'll see you Sunday, this coming Sunday, 10 a.m. We'll be live and online. And so Lord bless you. And hopefully for those who are part of our body, we'll be in prayer tonight at 7 o'clock. Thank you, guys. God bless you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.